Good evening, 5:29. I'm here. Somebody today who's known me for a very long time and been with me through interviews has seen me do a lot of these, not like this, but other interviews, said to me, Susan, when the cameras are on and the lights go on, oh, hallelujah light, they said you become a different personality. I said to them, no, you've only seen a couple of my personalities. There are several. And I think we only show people what we want to show them. Just like the clothes we wear. We want to project a certain image at a certain time, or our jewelry, or for men. We give people what we think they want. But it takes time and communication and serious communication to get to know someone. And to know me is to know I'm not casual. My life has never been casual. I wouldn't know how to do casual. Casual to me is putting a top on. This is casual. But relationships to me, they either are real or they're not. I do not do superficial, casual stuff. It's like small talk. I don't know how to do small talk. You want to talk about the weather? That's fine. Somebody else can chat to them. I'd rather talk about movies or theater or books or stuff. And I can't make that as clear as I'd like to perhaps make it. And have you noticed anything different? I can see my eye continues to improve. Oh, praise God. But I still, hello Joanne, you're so wonderful. I still continue to have some improvement yet. It's still a little bruised, but what's the girl gonna do when she has some makeup? Also want to thank all of you. God, some of you every day since April 2nd or 3rd have been with me. You're wonderful. You are wonderful. I appreciate it so much. And I just can't tell you enough how I look forward to it. But if you want to get to know me, you have to look in my eyes. You have to hear my voice. You have to hear my heart. And you have to know that I was a woman who loved deeply, lost deeply, and in some ways has definitely moved on. But there's a void. And I don't know if it'll ever be filled, which I doubt. You can't fill those kind of voids. But move on, yes. Meet new people, yes. Perhaps someone special comes along, yes. But you can't make that happen. That is from God. If a good relationship comes along, a really good one between a man and a woman, God will take care of it. You don't have to go out there looking. End of my little sermonette. It just was a great day. And the other thing is, I had someone else from Trinidad and Tobago. That's two, a man and a woman. I do think some of my glasses did get attention. And I have to do this for David, that's all. See, the previous ones were white framed if you were observant, but they still had this. These are darker, but they still have these. Always buy a couple of everything if you like them. Especially ladies, I will tell you that. If you see something you like, buy a couple of them. So David, that was just a preview. I'm not wearing them. We were into chapter 21, and it's going to get really intense, folks. We were into chapter 21, and we are going to finish it, and then we are going to take on chapter 22. Just think, we only have 22, 23, and 24 left. You're going to miss this. No, because you're going to get a hospice book next. And then, for those lucky souls who want to torture themselves even more, I'll go back and read this one again to new people. And I'll go back and forth until I know I've done exactly what God told me to do. Amen. I have to put these on one more time. Do I not have the coolest sunglasses in the world? No, I saw a great pair today on a child and I almost ripped them out of her hands. Oh, she was all of about 5 years old, just gorgeous, and she had these huge, big, pink sunglasses on. I kept staring at them, and I swear I came so close to just saying, "Don't tell your mother, but I'm taking them from you." But I didn't want the child to start crying. That's it. Thank you. God bless you. And now we're going to start. So yesterday I left off on that page, and now I'm going to go back. One, and I'm very animated. You know, I watch myself at night. I think to myself, Susan, you're always fidgeting with something, or you're always looking up. That's the clock. Or you're always doing something. Yes, I'm not one of these people that just sits there with their hands folded, staring in the screen. No, I'm animated. This is real. In the studio, if I were doing it in a real studio and had my talk show, or was doing it for interviews that are basically being interviewed, no, you sit there, you answer the questions, you don't play with your hair, you don't fidget with papers, you don't. I'm in my dining room, talking to you on the phone. I can go ahead and fidget. That's it. I'm going to read the last paragraph, and then we'll start the rest of the new ones, and then we will go on to 22. I'm in a good mood, as you can tell. I'm in a really good mood. Some people couldn't tell if I'm in a good mood or I'm just acting. No, I'm in a fairly decent mood today. Here we go. Remember yesterday? I have to lighten up some of it because it's not easy. In 25 years, this is from yesterday, I never remember, this is good. I never remember hearing you raise your voice to your parents. You adored each other and talked about everything. By July, we knew I needed care. I needed help with your care. The time had come for hospice. Thank God for hospice to assist us both. You couldn't live like this any longer. Your parents came over for their visit, and you told them about your decision. They continued to visit daily for several weeks, but their time spent with you gradually became shorter because you tired easily. Your visits with Dad were never a problem, but Mom's Mrs. Mince's Alzheimer's disease caused her to make repetitious remarks and meaningless outbursts. As your condition worsened, your patience with her became less until one day you couldn't take it any longer. Mom started to ramble on, and though barely able to speak, you looked at me and said, quote, "Please get her out of here. I cannot listen to this anymore," end quote. Dad and I knew how much you loved your mother, but it was horribly painful and saddening to hear you tell your mom to leave the room. After that incident, I continued to take Mom to see you, but immediately took her out of the apartment. We lived in a high-rise, and there was a catwalk, and I'd take Mom out around the catwalk a couple times, or take her down and walk her in the parking lot, and we were great together. I understood, but I knew that she was your mom, and she was going to lose a son. I was going to lose a husband, and yes, perhaps I would always have another one, but you don't lose a child and misplace that. No child can misplace a child. Doesn't work that way. So I understood what she was going to be going through, and maybe I just went out of my way to absolutely deal with it. I had so much going on, but when it came to your parents, they deserved to have everything. We're going to start now on Sunday, May 22nd, I think it is. Yes. Another incident made it brutally aware of how overwhelming and exhausting a long-term, life-threatening illness can be. By June, you were not able to take care of yourself, and you were becoming completely dependent on me. I developed a bronchial infection. Oh, I think I did this yesterday, but it's worth it because it'll lead into the next paragraph. I did read this one, I think, yesterday, maybe. By June, you were not able to take care of yourself and were becoming completely dependent on me. That's very hard when you become dependent. You don't have any children. You don't have any other family. On one person, it can become very, very hard. I thank God for the support system and for great friends. But Jeff and I never wanted children. Our marriage was just too crazy. And we were so caught up in each other that it wasn't appropriate. I developed a bronchial infection, 102-degree fever, and could barely get out of bed. I felt like every nerve in my body was on fire. For days, I hadn't been able to sleep because you were up every night with the fever and coughing. My doctor said he would call in an antibiotic. I flew out of the house, leaving you alone. When I got to the pharmacy, I told you this, my prescription wasn't ready. I was told my doctor hadn't called it in yet. It was a holiday weekend. The office was closed, and he'd gone out of town. It took 2 hours for another doctor to call the prescription in. I was screaming at the pharmacist and crying hysterically at the same time. I was emotionally out of control and took my rage and frustration out on an innocent person. I reacted this way because I was frustrated and desperately afraid for you. Yes, I think that's why I reread this whole thing again, is because I know someone very kind-hearted, and he was having a very rough day the other day, and he flew off the handle at someone he shouldn't have. And it was someone that I had a very good working relationship with. So when he came in, he apologized. I said, do not apologize to me. You're the one who should apologize to him. But sometimes, your friends represent you. Your family represents you. And when they do something that is really not right, it's a reflection of you. Just remember that. You are the people around you. You are the character you project. So if your family or people, your friends, really act out of character and they are not doing something that's really appropriate, that can be a reflection of you. Here we go. Over the years, a few of our decisions didn't turn out the way we hoped they would. But we became more flexible as we compromised and adjusted to the setbacks and disappointments. Hi, Jillian. We adjusted and we compromised. That's one thing marriage is, or a good relationship is. Yes, it's give and take and it's compromising. One will always give more, the other will take more. Then the next day the other takes more and the other one gives more. It's just a back and forth. And it's hard. It's very hard. And adjusted to setbacks and disappointments, but we compromised. After you were diagnosed, however, we lived by a different set of rules, and our compromises now weren't so easy to do. We faced frightening issues and didn't allow us any choices. Whether it was our emotional stability or the disease's progress, our life became one unpredictable, chaotic conflict, and nothing would ever be stable, normal, or routine again. And alongside us every step of the way were our two emotional components. Remember this chapter of fear and frustration. Life was simple until it became complicated. Life was simple until it became complicated. I honestly don't know where some of these words came from, but as I read them back decades later, these are my words. I know my words. I know my writing. I know the way I speak. I think I don't like text or emails in that respect, is that you can't see the person. You can't feel them. You can't explain it. It's not my generation. It's me. I have to communicate with someone verbally. I want to see them. I want to talk to them. Text is fine, but it's just for me only a way sometimes to make issues more complicated than they need to be. So the simple in my life became more complicated. Chapter 22. Boy, some of you have absolutely been the best. And if you want to know any more about me, honestly, just go to my website. Please, there's pictures there, there's information, or please start reading some more chapters. There's so many chapters, they're all descriptive there. They all tell you what to do. Here's this one, a beautiful thing. 22. What to do when nothing is working. Can you relate? What do you do when nothing is working? That's chapter 22. Quote, you taught me to believe that the true meaning of life was our desire for life, end quote. Hear me. Quote, you taught me to believe that the true meaning of life was our desire for life, end quote. People are amazing. People's will to survive, move on past tragedies, move on past the worst things that could happen. People can do that. I told you early on, we compartmentalize. We have a way of putting things into places where we can deal with them until one day, if you haven't dealt with it, you might explode. You might become addicted. You might take it out on yourself in a horrible way. You have to at some point deal with you. And you have to eventually move on, even though it's hard. I've been trying to move on for a couple of decades. Some days it's nearly impossible, but I try, and I'm open to trying. July 11th, my late mommy's birthday. July 11th, 1994. Okay, this is about 6 weeks before it's over, 5 weeks. What to do when nothing is working, chapter 22. Oh, my mother turned 83 years old today. I have longevity. Both my parents lived to be 92, and after Jeff died, I was so grateful that I was able to go back and forth to New York and take care of them and be with them till they passed. So they filled a tremendous void in my life. I had somebody to care for again. I loved caring for people. Not always when they wanted me to, but I was good at it. My mother turned 83 years old today, July 11th, 1994. She'd been through many ups and downs in her long life, and she is still going strong. You, my love, are 47 years old, and you will not live to see summer's end. You really did try everything imaginable as you battled for 2 years to survive this illness. It was and there's the chills there. It was your incredible will to live that was your strongest drive, and he was. God is talking to me. This book is so divinely anointed. You really did try everything imaginable as you battled for 2 years to survive this illness. And it was your incredible will to live that was your strongest drive. One of the many reasons why your will to live was so powerful, because it was your nature to love life and live it to the fullest. How many of you can say that you have lived your life to the fullest? Boy, I've had a whole bunch of fullness in mine, a lot. But his will to go forward and live. Another reason was because you would never have given up on anything you wanted or believed in. We shared that trait. Another reason is because you would never have been given up on anything you wanted or believed in. You would never have quit and walked away from something just because it got rough and things weren't working out. That's my trait also. I'm not walking away from anything just because I'm not happy. I will finish it to completion, and I will get my point across one way or another until I'm done with it. Throughout your life, it was your will to live that enabled you to endure the most difficult and challenging times. It was your never give up attitude that continued making you believe you could beat the odds. And he trusted me way too much to think I could keep him alive that way too. He trusted me so much. He thought I could save him. Even now in your final days, you still possess that remarkable will to live, but you do not have the energy to continue to fight. Though you do not want to give up, you can't go on any longer. Your suffering has become impossible to bear. Now, this is where some of you might want out. All right? Throughout your life, it was your will to live that enabled you to endure the most difficult and challenging times. It was your never give up attitude that continued making you believe you could beat the odds. And me. Even now, in your final days, you still possess that remarkable will to live, but you do not have the energy to continue to fight. Get out the tissues, kids. It may get rough soon. Though you do not want to give up, you can't go on any longer. Your suffering has become impossible to bear. Where do you get to my hospice book, though? It's the best stories you will ever hear. Even, trust me on this. This one is great. This is my story. This is a great book. But the hospice stories book, brilliant. In June, we finally heard your doctor's words telling you there was nothing else he could do. Our first reactions of shock and disbelief gave way to panic and terror. The dreaded reality of this time had come, but I couldn't accept it. It was too painful to believe you were going to die after you fought so long and so hard to live. I continued calling your doctors, frantically pleading with them to find one more drug, treatment, or procedure that could help you. I was begging them, quote, "Why can't any of you find something else that will work? Please do not let him die," end quote. But my pleas and my prayers for help went unanswered this time. My pleas and my prayers went unanswered this time. The doctors could not find anything else in their little black bags that would save your life. How could I deal with the horrible truth that your treatments weren't working any longer and there's nothing left that anyone can do? It is impossible to explain the feelings of helplessness and hopelessness I experienced at this time. I was petrified and I was terrified. I have never felt this kind of desperation and futility before. I could not let go. I was not ready to say goodbye. We stop here. There'll be a little bit more about his diagnosis. We'll reflect back a few more things with diagnosis, the marriage. I told you early on that this would be a back and forth book. A couple people who did purchase it, maybe the one or two, who did make it, I'm joking, or am I, said that at times it was repetitive. Well, yes, it was repetitive. I was journaling day to day, One day I was all right and he was all right, and one day I was not all right and he was not all right. One day there was a new medication, next day it didn't work. One day I was trying to put pills in Snickers candy bars, and the next day he was throwing up across the room on the wall in chunks. There's a big difference between a long-term life-threatening illness and the shock of someone being killed, or an airplane crash, a car accident. Yes, loss, however, is loss. Grief is grief, and it takes time. And everyone will take the amount of time they need to grieve and to do what they have to do. There is no book on how long. There is no protocol. There is no set time. You take as much time as you need to process what you have to process. But at some point, even I did, I came to the reality that he was gonna go, he was gonna pass, and I was gonna be a very young widow. We haven't gotten to that on paper yet. I will have tissues available at my table for the next few readings, so I'm telling you now. Hello, Wendy, my darling. I will tell you now that for some of you, you're going to get teary-eyed because you have experienced loss from COVID or some other unfortunate circumstance that has left you helpless, hopeless, desperate, panicked, petrified of the future, and etc. But you are looking at a woman who has managed to put it all down on paper. What will I get back to all the time? Right. Nobody can replace the thoughts in your head. Nobody will ever take these memories out. No one will ever truly remove that little empty spot. But this pen can right now help you put down that sentence. I'm having a hard time dealing with this. I know I've lost my wife or my husband or my child. I know this is not making any sense. I am so upset. I want to cry all the time. Put it down on paper. Write it out. That's it. I will see you, hopefully, tomorrow night at 5:30. And I know that some of you have truly cared about what I'm doing and reading and feeling and saying. I thank you. So, until tomorrow, I shall say shalom. I don't know why I do this. Shalom, hello. Shalom, goodbye. And shalom, peace. In a world that's not very peaceful right now, try to find some peace. Be kind. Be a little more patient. And call someone and tell them, if you don't love them, at least tell them you're thinking of them. How about that? You don't have to call someone and tell them you love them. Why don't you just call someone and say, I'm thinking of you now. So, I wanted to call. God bless you all. I thank you. And tomorrow we will continue, but have a little tissue available. I'm going to finish up now. Bye.